welcome back to another episode of It's Not Luck. Today we are joined by another fabulous guest, Hannah. Hannah, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I am good, and it is like literal heat wave over here, so it's turning out to be a very good day.
Yes, the sun is shining, which is instantly like mood boost, endorphins. I feel like greater productivity as well, because it's like if I do my work, then I can go outside, have a lovely long walk, switch off for the evening.
100%. I'm like breaking up the day, getting out on a nice little walk anyway. I've already done like 3 walks today. I'm just like, oh, one more, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Vitamin D is essential. So, Hannah, could you give us a little bit of an overview of what you do? I mean, it ties in very nicely, hence why I wanted to have you on the podcast, where we're very much diving into different people's stories of success, what they do, what it means to them. And I feel like you're a very great example of that with many different areas of expertise and skills. So, could you give us kind of like an overview of what it is that you do?
For sure. So I guess my main job in life, I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in REDS recovery and period recovery. So specifically with female athletes or recreational female athletes. And it's something that's been fairly new to me. So I started my own business a year ago this month, which is very exciting.
Amazing.
Um, and since then, I've been able to help so many women regain their periods, get pregnant, perform their best, hit PBs, and not have to choose between health and performance. And like you can have it all. It's just not obvious with kind of where we're at in society on social media and everything like that. So our kind of normal of what health is skewed. So
Mm.
um, that's like my main passion in life is kind of towards that. And then what I kind of do weirdly part-time to that is that I'm also an international athlete. But in a sport that's not professional by any means. So I play lacrosse for both Scotland and GB. I've played lacrosse for Scotland for nearly 10 years now, which is mental. I'm like
Wow.
a geriatric athlete in that world. But then I played for GB for 2 years. So there's loads going on with that, with travel and tournaments. I've played in 2 Euros, one World Cup, and I've got a World Cup next year in Japan. And then
Amazing.
GB, there's loads of various tours and World Games this summer and things like that. So it's all very exciting because I'm busy.
And it lends so perfectly well to obviously your business and like your professional life, but also your
Yeah.
kind of career, which I always think is like the perfect blend of business opportunities. Like when you've lived it and you're working with women similar to you, it's like that is where you know like what needs to be done to ensure stability and sustainability, I guess, with continued success, which is why I thought it'd be super interesting to have you on because from my own experience, and I think so many of the listeners, and I'm sure you'll resonate as well, like we have when we're growing up, there's this like vision of success. And actually, I'm sure, particularly in the nature of your work, what we think is successful, i.e., for like a big generalization, if I'm skinnier, then I'll be more successful, or I'll be more popular, or I'll be more liked or more accepted. And actually, that just is not a definition of success. Yet it's something that so many young women aspire to because of what we're told and what we read and what we see in movies and everything like that. So I just wonder, thinking a bit about that, like of your journey, what was something about your journey that didn't fit the kind of traditional vision or stereotypical image of success that now you look back on and you're like, yeah, that probably wasn't actually what was successful or is successful to me now.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually, it's because like I fell victim to that trap of, well, if I'm leaner, then I'm an athlete. I look like an athlete. I'm a better athlete, and that's actually kind of what led me on my own journey of period recovery. So it's called hypothalamic amenorrhea, so HA. I lost my periods in 2022 for that World Cup. And I thought I was like an amazing athlete. I was so lean. I had like a six pack and I was like the smallest I've ever been. And I was just like, yeah, like I obviously look like this because I'm going to the World Cup. Like that's what I'm meant to look like. I was meant to lose weight just for a World Cup. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, Hannah, you are so stupid. But in the moment, I was just like, well, and I had good intentions. Like I was like, Oh, and it wasn't intentional by any means. I just overdid it. I thought more
Mm,
was more. I thought that, instead of doing my team program, I'm going to do more than my team program because then I'll be better because I've done more. And that is like a huge learning that I've taken away from that, that actually sometimes success isn't who works the hardest, it's who works the smartest.
mm,
And yeah, that was just a massive learning curve coming away from that, because I went into that tournament and would have been my first World Cup, second tournament for Scotland. And my first Euros, I was new to the team. I wasn't standout by any means. I was just like there, kind of not really starting. And then the World Cup, I was like, I could start. I'm a starting lineup. And there was an article and it was like one to watch from Scotland, Hannah Whiteley. And I was like, this is quite a big deal for me. But then I just overdid it. And I went in too hard, did too much. I was not smart about it. I didn't recover enough. I didn't prioritize other aspects of performance and health. I put leanness and fitness above absolutely everything, and I didn't perform at all. And I'm meant to be like the fast person on the team, like the person that drives with the ball, like run past people, and I just couldn't do it. I wasn't fast anymore. I wasn't strong. So I came away super disappointed. Probably not the time to have such a big learning curve. But nonetheless, it's made me a 10 times better athlete now having that.
mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's such a tricky one because it's often those moments of like the big learnings or the underperforming or the hitting a point where you're like, I can't keep going at this level that takes you to realize. And that's like definitely been the same in my own journey. Like I lost my period. Well, I say it lost. It sort of I was having irregular periods and I didn't know what it was from necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now, having like done the education, but it's like if I was taught that back at school or like even at university, I don't know how because I didn't do biology, but let's say there was an extra module for like women,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that was all around like female health and actually having a regular period is the sign of health. Yet you don't, well, I didn't know that for so long. I just thought, and you hear so many people say, oh yeah, I don't get regular cycles. It's great because having a period is so annoying. And you're like, no, but this is part of being a woman and having those regular cycles. Like that's what you need. So it's just funny how it takes those moments of like, there is no other option but to change things. That then is what triggers the sort of shift in behavior or mindset around it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of where a huge passion of mine lies, is like breaking the taboos and talking about it, saying the words and talking about cervical mucus in public. And people are like, oh gosh, like can't do that. And I'm like, we have to talk about this. Everyone has it. And
Yeah.
I'm now going into schools and I'm doing these presentations and I'm trying to like think of cool ways to talk about the menstrual cycle, because all we're shown at school is, you'll be able to picture it, that one graph that's like woo and it goes up and then yeah, and it's like, oh, here's when the corpus luteum develops and then it breaks down. No one cares. Like even trying, if you want to get pregnant, no one cares about how it actually all really works. But what we do care about is, okay, well, what actually happens in the, like, to me in the menstrual cycle? How do I feel? What should I be looking for to know that I'm healthy? You're right in what you said. Like our menstrual cycle every month is like a monthly report card. It tells you exactly how your body's responding. It tells you if you responded well to stress, if there was too much stress, if you're recovering well. Any changes to menstrual cycle it's the only objective evidence we have of what's going on in our body. Because if you just take it like, oh, how did I sleep? Oh, I'm okay. Or like, am I a bit stressed? Maybe I'm a bit stressed. But like our period is amazing. So to understand it is so key. So yeah, I'm now going to schools and I'm saying estrogen is the Beyonce of your body, and progesterone is like the moody Zendaya in like Euphoria, and things like that, so that they're actually going to remember it. They know what to look for when it's like cervical mucus changes around your cycle, to know that you're fertile is such an important one. Like my friends my age don't know what fertile cervical mucus looks like. So
Mm.
there's
But
me
we're
at
not
our girls'
taught it.
sticks.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I'm trying. I'm waving that period flag at all schools. And
Yeah, well, it's so important. And I think like good for you because it's so needed. And saying it in a way that resonates is like probably the biggest challenge because it's like we can teach people something, but then if it doesn't land, it doesn't like sink in,
Mhm.
then it's pointless. So in that moment, I guess, where you realize that you'd kind of overdone it, let's say, and you realize that actually this isn't working, I suppose there was both a sort of physical shift in terms of I need to change up like how I'm fueling or how I'm eating, but also like a mindset shift. Can you remember like what that mindset shift or that kind of like aha moment was that made you actually change your behaviors and kind of relationship with like training and fueling and performance?
Yeah, so it actually took me a while to get out of this like cycle of training so much, and it became such a core part of me in like not the best way. Like it was a
Mm,
competitive element that I had. I wasn't doing it really because it wasn't my program. I was doing more than it. I was doing too much, and I was just so competitive with my own teammates. But it took an injury for me to have to stop.
mm,
I hurt both my ankles, so I took a bit of time off my ankle, but then I had a really bad back injury from overtraining, which I still have. So that is a lesson that won't leave me. And I had to take time off. And then it meant that I was like, okay, I'm actually going to really buy into this recovery time because I'm fed up of all these injuries. And I just had constant injuries. Like I was that player that was always on the physio bed. And I was just like,
mm,
oh, like I've probably got bad genetics. Oh, thanks, Dad. But like it was because I was overdoing it. I wasn't recovering well. You can still have reds even if you're, fueling correctly and stuff by under recovering, not just overtraining. And
mm,
I was just in that. So I committed to recovery and I had the best time. I started to like be more sociable. I had more energy for my friends, for my partner. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. And then I started to gain a bit of healthy weight and then noticed my energy levels changed, my libido changed, my like outlook on everything changed. And I was like,
mm,
I didn't even realize that I lost all of this. I kind of like with my sex drive, I was just like, I'm just one of those people that's not into it that much.
mm,
No, I just had no hormones. And then everything changed. And like everything just got better. That when I went back to my sport, I noticed the changes and I was like, well, the it was the training that was the issue. I
mm,
knew I overdid it. And then I actually didn't want to go back to the amount that I was doing. And then I obviously did all the education around it. I at that point was doing my diploma in performance nutrition, where it was mainly covered on reds. I started to kind of pick up clients that I noticed had reds, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. Have I said that already? And then the girls that kind of fall into reds are like your type A perfectionist, goal driven, yeah, data kind of orientated girlies. And that's my brain. And so then the more I worked with them, I was like, I get it. So I can help you.
mm,
um,
mm.
so yeah, it took a lot of education, a literal degree, working with people, working on myself, to shift it. And a lot of actually my realizations of my World Cup era when this all happened is retrospective because I didn't have these thoughts during it because I was so in it. It was only when
Mm,
I had to stop, I was like, oh my God, how did I just not see it?
Yeah, it's so true, and it's like that point there around unless we listen to like the cues that are from our body, which it sounds like in your instance, and I can speak like definitely for myself. Not that I've ever been a professional athlete, but I've always been someone who's like super active. I enjoy exercising, but I've always exercised a lot more so than actually probably what it is healthy, or now that I realize was healthy. Hence why it took losing my cycles to realize that. And it's like our body will force us to do that unless we listen to it. And it's so funny that we think we can override the signals from our body, whether it's like to do with your period or whether it's just generally needing more rest or having firmer boundaries or like not working 24/7. It's like the body's going to get in the way at some point, and we really want to sort of intercept it before it gets to that point.
Yeah, exactly. And my whole concept now when I work with anyone is, as women, we're told from, the age of like 11 to work against your body. Don't talk about your period, pretend it's not there. Show up every single day the exact same, put a smile on your face. Don't act like you're in your luteal phase and you are just about to start your period and you're exhausted and irritable. Be the smallest version of yourself. You know, there's studies on stereotypes around people with obesity. So then that's terrifying for people, especially in teenagers, when you're comparing yourself constantly and just want to fit in. And it is just exhausting being a woman,
Mm,
because you are fighting everything about yourself. You are trying to be smaller, trying to turn up every day the same, trying to live in a bit of a man's world. And now I am just like, it's the only time where I will tell someone, like, it's okay to slow down, it's okay to stop, and instead of working against your body, we're going to work with it. You're going to listen to it. You're going to listen to the signals. The way it changes, it's okay that it's going to change, because you're
mm,
giving it the tools and the resources now, that whatever it does to change, let it, and then listen to it. And
mm.
it's like a really freeing thing, because all of a sudden you can be quite in tune with every aspect of yourself, rather than just like constantly working against yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that probably suggests that your like definition of what is successful has changed from back in the day to kind of where you are now. So, what would you say is like your symbol or definition, or like what does success look like to you where you are now?
Yeah, it's interesting, because my motto always used to be, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And I still stand by it a little bit, because I'm still super driven. And, you know, like, whether it's in my business or in my sport, and, you know, like, it wasn't like that I'm like one of the fittest or one of the strongest or the fastest on the team. It's not like I have worked super hard. At times I've worked too hard. But, you know, I still stand by it, that if it was easy, everyone would do it. However, I never accounted for, you know, success is about hard work, but it's also about reflection, recovery, you know, relationships, other things. There's a lot more that comes into success than just output and just hard work.
Yeah, I think it's so important to like reflect and reassess on a regular basis, because it does change as we evolve, as like we're going through different phases of our life. And I suppose that's something that you must work through with clients. It's like, what what are you looking for here? You know, what is it that you're working towards? And I bet there's so much fear that comes up with clients who reach out, of like whether it's the weight gain, whether it's not being able to exercise, whether it's feeling like they're not going to have their like outlet of like stress, and you know, all of the things that like very much were real for me. So if there are people listening that are kind of at that stage where they're like, okay, I know that something isn't quite right. Like I haven't been getting regular cycles, but I'm sort of scared of what I'm gonna have to change or give up to get there. What do you like? What piece of advice can you give, or what's sort of the most common, yeah, like those conversations that you're having?
So the easiest thing for someone to do in this situation is to do nothing. And that feels comfortable, to do nothing. Of course, you don't have to change. So if it feels uncomfortable, if you're implementing changes and it feels uncomfortable, good. Because you had to change, something had to change, and it should feel uncomfortable, because the easiest thing to do would be do nothing. So that's like the starting point. If it's uncomfortable and you're like, oh, I don't love it, you're doing the right thing. It should feel uncomfortable initially.
It's like sitting with that discomfort and
Mm-hmm.
trusting the process is so much of it. So obviously you've had like the success from like the physical training and the commitment and like the self-discipline. What would you say have been other like essential part, like contributing factors to your success that are sort of beyond like the obvious things that you've been doing? Like, do you have specific routines or rituals or like boundaries that have really helped get you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I would say that it's been the setbacks which have probably made me quite successful, because it's not like I've walked onto every team I've ever trialed for. You know, I've not been selected. I played on the Scotland B team for like 4 years or something. You know, I was in a room. I remember the first one weekend I ever went to. I went with two girls I was on the same team with, Edinburgh Uni, and the head coach at the time came up to my two friends that I was with, them was like, "You two belong on this team. I'm so excited you two are here." And I was just sat there like, oh God. And then
Oh,
I wasn't on the team for a few years. But again, it's like a bit of fire in your belly. You're like, okay, fine, I'm gonna get there. And then now, starting line up, and we made it. And there's losses, there's injuries, there's everything along the way, and that just contributes to like the why you do it. Because yeah, losing as a team is rubbish, but winning as a team is amazing. And although you spend time off for injury, when you're playing and you have like a season where you're not injured, it's just the best feeling in the world. And even with the business side of things, it's not linear. Like you'll know that no success in a business is going to be just like, yeah, all I do is make money and more money every month. It's a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of setbacks. And there was a time where I just stopped taking clients because I was like, okay, this isn't working. I need to stop this, take 2 months no income because I have to restructure everything because it's not working for me. I'm getting burnt out. I've done too much and it's not sustainable for me. So I have to change it. And it's like taking those leaps because you trust the future you like everything I do is driven by my passion for what I do. I'm
Mm.
so passionate about my sport. I'm so passionate about helping people be their best and like live their best life and healthiest self. That's kind of what always keeps me going. And I'll sit with discomfort, just like my clients will, in changing my business model or trying to completely change something about my game. Like in my sport now, we've kind of moved. Scotland is like tens, like rugby is like rugby, and then there's rugby sevens. There's tens for Scotland and it's sixes for GB. So it's a completely different game. So I have to kind of sit with that, go away, try something completely different because my style of play in tens isn't the same as in sixes. So, there's a lot of setbacks and there's a lot of changes, but fundamentally I'm just so passionate about it all that's the drive. I wouldn't even say I'm disciplined or like, yeah, I'm motivated because of that, but I'm passionate, which is the main thing. And then the rest comes from habits, routine, everything that I've just done for
Mm.
years and years. I don't even think about training anymore. It's just part of what I do.
Mm. Do you have a sort of go-to morning routine that you feel sets you up well for the day, or is it a bit more relaxed and kind of dependent on like where you're at and the mood and things like that?
Yeah, I'm a bit chaotic in that like routine actually doesn't really work for me. I definitely have my time in the morning where I don't like to kind of get up, go to training, come back. Like I need a good hour, 45 minutes with me, kind of sitting by myself, whether it's kind of like catching up on my phone or like setting my intentions for my training that day or my
Mm.
work that day. I kind of have to like write absolutely everything out. So I do have an hour in the morning where I make my outstanding oat flat whites, which I've really nailed. And then apart from that, like, working for myself every day is different. I have my client days where Wednesdays and Thursdays I take all my calls and everything else can be changed. I could be traveling to a random school that day. I could be doing a podcast. I could be on a panel. So it's really exciting, but that's how I thrive. I kind of thrive in chaos.
Mm. That like under pressure, go, go,
Yeah,
go.
that is
Um,
me to a T.
and how would you say, from your experience, I guess one of the hurdles or challenges, for lack of a better word, that like female business owners, especially solopreneurs, face is like navigating running their business whilst also like having their monthly cycle and riding with the different levels of energy or focus that come with that. And I know there are a lot of women who really have a few days of the month where it's just super painful and very like debilitating. So what advice could you give to business owners who, yeah, feel like there's like almost like weeks or a week of the month where they just can't do anything? Like what advice would you give to them?
Oh, I completely feel that. I'm like a different human in like luteal and my follicular phase. Track your cycle. Cycle tracking will change your life. If you're like not on the pill. Even on the coil, you have a cycle, So I'm being able to have that. And even if maybe, someone with in the menopause or on the pill, actually maybe trying to follow a cycle is quite helpful because it just means you don't burn out trying to do everything 100 miles an hour, and actually adjusting to the season. So I quite like to talk about the menstrual cycle like seasons. So during your luteal phase, which is like PMS city, into your period, then that is like autumn into winter. In our winter months, we like to hibernate, we like to slow down, light a candle, have a bath. You don't have to socialize. It's okay, you can stay in. in that autumn and the winter months. But then when it comes into your follicular phase, which is kind of the first start of the cycle, that is like spring into summer. So spring is the beginning of the follicular, and then when you ovulate, when estrogens are highest, that is summer. So that would be like day 14. So your follicular phase is around like day 1 to 17-ish. That's when you feel good. So if you know exactly when you're going to be spring, summer, plan your interviews, plan your events. Like that's, if you do retreats, that's when you do your retreats. Like actually you can really plan it so that your body is with you and you have the energy. And that's when it's best to like connect with people and network, because biologically your body's like, let's go find a mate, let's make you look better, let's make you glow, because you know, from an evolutionary standpoint, it wants you to get pregnant and be attractive to someone to get pregnant. So you can actually plan the big things like interviews, whatever it might be, around your cycle. And then when it's in that autumn and winter phase, where if you know you really struggle with energy levels, irritability, the rest of it, maybe that's like goal setting for your month. Maybe that's more admin tasks. Maybe that's going to be like an audit of your business, like what I did. You know, maybe the next 2 weeks are going to be, I'm going to go back, going to look through my finances, I'm going to look through my client list, I'm going to look through my Instagram, I'm going to see what was successful and kind of like reflect and then implement in the next few weeks. And then when you come back into your follicular phase, you put it all back into motion. You're like making the videos, planning all your social media, whatever it might be that your business is. You can plan it accordingly. And then if you do that, you're actually allowing time to slow down in the month so that you're not going to burn out. And like, you know, someone that doesn't have a cycle, still following that just enables time for 2-week blast, let's go out, let's network, and then 2 weeks recovering, kind of reflecting, staying in a bit longer, just so you're not always showing up every day like you're on a 24-hour cycle like men are, because we just can't do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so valuable to be intentional with like how you're mapping out your month and doing it based off of your cycles. Like it's genius because you're leveraging your energy, but you're also creating that space to slow down, to be more introspective, to like stay at home. Like, any excuse for me to stay at home, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'll have a night in. So I think being able to do that would just, I imagine, is game changing for so many people, and probably feels very empowering as well to be like, I've planned this in a way that I know is working for me and is actually going to help me see the biggest success, especially if you've got things like launches or in-person events. Like the last thing is you want to have a launch or be running a retreat where you just feel like all you want to do is be in your room on your own.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, my boyfriend knows everything about periods, obviously being with me. And he made a comment. He was like, I hope when we get married, it's in your follicular phase. And I was like, me too.
We can make that
We've been
happen. We
thinking
can
the
plan for that. Don't worry.
same.
That's amazing. That's so good. And I guess thinking sort of on like the mindset shift side of things, and whether it is on that journey of like regaining your period or having more regular cycles, what would be a main piece of advice that you'd give around that? Because obviously it's like having the information is one thing and knowing what you need to do, but then it's actually like, okay, I need to get really out of my comfort zone and really trust that process, that what this is like inevitably what I need to do is going to help me get to a better place that probably feels so out of touch because it's something that you're not haven't been connected to potentially years. How
Yeah.
do you kind of guide or advise clients or even just sort of, you know, friends that you're with around that kind of initial stages of that process?
Yeah, I think the underlying issue is, what does healthy mean to
Mm,
you? And it probably means something different to absolutely everyone, but having your own definition is really important. And then it's easier to live by it, because a lot of people get confused with, well, healthy is what you eat, what you exercise, and that's it, or like what I look like. But it's not. It is so much more. It is, you know, your social health, your mental health, connections around you, nature, like everything. There's so many aspects that build into your health that when people are a bit reluctant to change because they love exercising, for example, which is a really common one. I get loads of people before they even work with me, they're like, but do I actually have to exercise? And it's like, that is only one element of health. And it's one element of your identity. And I think a lot of this ties into people's identities, that they have a really strong athletic identity. If I stop, who am I? What are people going to think of me? Are they not going to see me as a sporty one anymore? Are they not going to see me as the healthy one because that's all I've been? And it's redefining that. Like, that's such a zoomed in picture of you, you know. But if you were to zoom out, you don't even see that, because there's so many aspects of you and your health. So having your definition is really important. Like, what actually is important to you? Is your healthy the smallest version of yourself? Probably not. So if we need to get you back to your healthy, what does that look like? What does that person do? What's their morning look like? How does it look different to you now? And then actually, to change that behavior, a really nice exercise I do is in like the notes section of the phone, having two columns, and it's like old me versus new me. And when you're making decisions throughout the day, and if it starts to feel a bit uncomfortable, write down, okay, what would old me do right now? Put that in that section. And then, okay, what is new me going to do? Why is it different? What does it look like? And it's kind of redefining that healthy. Healthy isn't the one that avoids carbohydrates or doesn't eat ultra processed foods. Often the healthiest diet isn't the one that avoids everything that's technically unhealthy.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know if that's directly answered the question, but that's kind of like, these are the challenges that you kind of have to ask yourself, like challenge these really old thoughts to give space so that you can actually make the changes that you need.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I love a practical exercise as well. I know for me, one of the mindset like shifts that really helped, or sort of that I kept coming back to, was like, this is an like a phase of like an era or a phase of my life. You know, it's like, if I can commit to this for 3 months or 6 months, however long it takes, then I can get back to more running or whatever it is that you want to do. It's like, it's not forever. And actually, the more I was like, I've had to keep reminding myself, like, the more all in I go, the sooner I'll see the benefits and the changes, which means the sooner I can go back to not my old ways at all, but enjoying running again without sort of feeling like I had to, do you know what I mean? It's sort of reminding
Yeah.
yourself it's like a phase.
Yeah, and you know what? This is why my one-to-one pack is actually called the comeback pack, because I don't believe it's a setback. I believe it's a comeback.
Mm,
And I say to all my clients, you have achieved so much in low energy availability. Like, you haven't even touched the ceiling of your potential yet, because you're not operating, like, not everything's switched on. Your body is in survival mode. So imagine what you're going to achieve when we get you into optimal energy availability. And there's a process that goes on in between that to get you there. But I'm not just going to like leave you and be like, okay, well, you got a period, like, crack on. I'm going to get you higher and better, performing better and hitting those PBs like that you would have never been able to do before. But we do have to kind of get that foundation of health first. And I've
mm,
got a really great story with one of my clients. She was a figure skater. And I love all my clients, we've become best friends. And she was really apprehensive about gaining weight when we were working together, because figure skating is, you know, got a bit of a stereotype around what the dancers kind of look like. They are such athletes, can I first of all add. And she actually didn't get a job initially that she'd applied for, but she had to update her form with her updated weight, because it has to, you know, maintain. And then once she'd updated that weight, she actually got a call back from that job, and they were like, I just wanted to question one of the updates you put on your application, your weight has changed. And when she was telling me this, I was like, oh, it's so toxic, like, what's it going to be? And there and then, well, she asked her what had happened, and a client had said, I decided to prioritize my health, which meant that I needed to gain some weight. So I've done that, and, you know, I'm dancing great, I'm still doing well, but like, I have had weight changes. And the person employing said, I'm so glad to hear that, because I didn't hire you because I want my girls to be healthy. And I saw this
mm.
updated weight. I loved how you danced and skated, but you weren't what I was looking for health wise. I want my girls to be healthy. So actually, I do want to offer you the job now, because that's what I value in my skaters. She got the job because she'd made those changes. And I just thought
Amazing.
it was the most incredible
Mm,
story of how actually something that was so uncomfortable for her has catapulted her ice skating career.
It's like, it's that whole long term vision, and like, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's the sustainable health and performance, and like being able to do so on over like a long term basis. So that's amazing. What a cool story. And I bet she was just like, it was all worth it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, at the end of this, all clients all clients go through the same, kind of mental thought process.
Mm,
They hate it at the beginning. They're like, oh, it's really uncomfortable. I don't want to make these changes. And then at the end, they're like, I can't believe I ever thought like that. I can't believe I ever ate like that, exercise like
mm,
that. Like, it was all worth it. And once you kind of, and it's what happened with me, once you're in energy availability, and, one of the symptoms of recovery is literally improved outlook on life.
mm,
And that does just happen, and all of a sudden things fall into place, and other things are a priority, like your relationships, like your friends, like your work, your training gets better, and the priority is no longer to be the smallest version of yourself.
mm,
And then
mm,
actually everyone around you is so supportive, because I think people don't want to change because they're worried of how people will view them, but actually people forget that everyone's rooting for you. And if they see you getting healthier, they're like, that is amazing, and they're rooting for you. No one is going to be like, oh my god, I can't believe she put herself first. Like, that's
mm,
crazy.
mm, mm. You become a more enjoyable person to hang out with, so it's like a win-win
100%.
for everyone. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing so much about your story, but also, yeah, your insights and everything. If people want to find out more about how they can work with you, where is the best place for them to do that?
You can go through my Instagram, seems to be my little hub for everything. And then through there, you've got links in my bio to my website, where you can learn more about my services, my one-to-ones, the period program. Reach out if you've got any questions, book a call with me if you just want to chat through what I do. So yeah, Nutrition by Han.
Amazing. I'll link it in the show notes as well. And thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.